The evening had just begun to exhale its final breath of light when Jessica Norris, Chuck Norris's eldest granddaughter, stepped off the curb, completely unaware she was walking straight into the jaws of injustice. Fresh from dance class, her ballet slippers tapped softly against the pavement, their rhythm blending with her gentle humming. Her backpack swung easily over her shoulder, heavy with late-night rehearsals but light with the innocence of youth. The quiet neighborhood around her, bathed in the golden hue of a dying sun, felt safe. Familiar. But beneath the shadowy brush a few feet away, something stirred, something dark and watching. A sudden wail of sirens shattered the stillness like glass exploding in slow motion. Jessica's head snapped toward the sound just as a patrol car skidded to a halt beside her. Blue and red lights washed over the street, twisting her peaceful world into something surreal and threatening. The driver's door creaked open, and out stepped a police officer with a clean-cut uniform and a badge that gleamed in the fading twilight, like a threat disguised as authority. His name, Officer Grayson, his presence, commanding, cold. "Where do you think you're going?" Jessica froze mid-step, her pulse kicked up. The carefree walk home she'd enjoyed seconds ago now felt like a memory. Her voice trembled, but she forced it out. I'm just heading home, sir." Grayson moved around his car, a slow, calculated approach that reeked of smug superiority. There was a grin on his face, not friendly, not kind. It was the kind of smile a wolf might flash before sinking its teeth in. As he closed in, the air seemed to shrink around her. "This isn't your neighborhood, is it?" he said, his voice dropping into something more insidious. "What's a young girl like you doing out here alone?" Jessica shifted her weight, suddenly aware of every sound, every breath. "Just came from dance class," she answered, her voice brittle. "I live a few blocks away." The words barely left her lips before he stepped closer, looming over her, radiating control. Sure you do," he sneered. "Let's see some ID." Her fingers fumbled as she reached into her pocket, nerves scattering her thoughts. She handed him her student IDs with a shaking hand. Grayson snatched it, his grip quick and possessive, eyes scanning it with exaggerated interest, like a predator toying with its meal. "A Norris?" He muttered, a scoffing laugh. "You're not one of those Norrises, are you? The rich and famous don't usually wander into neighborhoods like this." His sarcasm hit like a slap, but Jessica held her ground. She didn't flinch. She didn't drop her gaze. "I am," she said evenly. "My grandfather." But Grayson waved a hand, cutting her off mid-sentence. Yeah, save the fairy tale," he snapped. "You think a name gives you a free pass? Think again." Jessica took a cautious step back, her instincts screaming, but he was faster. His hand shot out and clamped around her arm like a steel trap. "Where do you think you're going?" He growled. "You're not going anywhere unless I say so." Pain shot up her arm as he yanked her toward him. Jessica's voice, once swallowed by fear, erupted. "Let go of me," she cried, twisting against his iron grip. But Grayson wasn't done. His eyes sparked with cruel satisfaction. "You little brat," he hissed. "You think you can talk to me like that? You've just made a big mistake." And with that, he shoved her, hard. Jessica stumbled, slamming into the side of the cruiser with a sickening thud. Her feet tangled beneath her, and she collapsed onto the pavement. Her knees scraped violently against the asphalt, and a sharp cry tore from her throat as pain exploded through her legs. The cold, uncaring concrete bit into her skin. She gasped, trembling. But as blood began to bead on her knees, she lifted her head with wide, burning eyes. What Officer Grayson didn't know, what he never saw coming, was that this wasn't just any girl he'd assaulted. This was Jessica Norris, and her grandfather was about to find out. Chuck Norris was coming, and hell was coming with him. A scream without sound, a silent plea, echoes through the neighborhood as Jessica's breath hitches in her throat, her battered body curled on the pavement like a question mark. Pain throbs in her scraped knees, her arms still smarting from Grayson's iron grip, but her spirit still burning. Shaking fingers reach for her phone, the cracked screen flaring to life like a lighthouse through the fog of fear. One contact, one shot. Grandpa. Each ring slices through the night like a heartbeat suspended in purgatory. The seconds stretch endlessly. When the call connects, her voice bursts out, raw, shattered, barely holding together. "Grandpa, I need you," she sobs, her words a desperate wail bleeding into the shadows. "It's Officer Grayson." He grabbed me. "I'm scared." The line goes still. Elsewhere, in the sleek silence of a high-rise office, Chuck Norris sits at the head of a polished mahogany table. Around him, executives exchange figures and forecasts, but he's not listening, not anymore. His phone buzzes on the table, and time itself seems to hold its breath. One glance at the screen and his entire demeanor shifts. The businessman vanishes. What remains is something far more dangerous. "Jessica," he mutters, his voice quiet, but behind it simmers a fury vast and ancient. "Jessica, what happened?" Every syllable he speaks is weighted with purpose, controlled, but beneath that control, rage coils like a loaded gun. On the other end, Jessica's voice splinters into sobs. "A cop. He stopped me. He pushed me to the ground." Chuck Norris doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His jaw clenches. His eyes harden, and then he moves. The screech of tires breaks the night as Chuck's truck slams to a stop near the scene. The door flies open with thunderous finality, and from within emerges not just a man, but a force of reckoning. Lit by street lamps, his silhouette cuts through the fog like a blade, broad shoulders squared, jaw set, eyes alight with vengeful fire. Grayson turns, startled by the sudden presence. That arrogant smirk from earlier, gone. He stumbles back a step, confusion flickering across his face as if the laws of the universe just rewrote themselves in real time. "Oh, what's this?" Grayson scoffs weakly, trying to save face. "A rescue mission? You come to save the little princess from the big bad cop?" But the words drop dead in the air, lifeless. The tension around them hums like a live wire. Chuck ignores him completely. His eyes find Jessica huddled on the ground, cheeks streaked with tears and grit. He's by her side in 2 strides, dropping to one knee, his large hands gently framing her face. "Are you hurt?" he asks, his voice a low rumble of fury disguised as comfort. "Did he lay hands on you?" Jessica, trying to steady her breath, nods toward Grayson. "I'm okay now," she whispers, though her voice trembles. He grabbed me. I told him I was just walking home, but he wouldn't believe me." Chuck straightens slowly, rising like a storm about to break. When he turns to Grayson, it's not with the fury of a man. It's with the judgment of something older, something unstoppable. Grayson shifts on his feet, suddenly aware of just how small he is in the presence of true power. Chuck's voice slices through the thick air. "Why, you touched my granddaughter?" The calm in his tone is worse than shouting. It carries the weight of 1,000 unspoken consequences. Grayson tries to rally, shoulders tightening as he sneers. She was being uncooperative, he says, waving a dismissive hand. These girls today think they don't need to show any respect. I was teaching her a lesson. A laugh, a single, bone-deep chuckle, rips from Chuck Norris's throat. It's not amusement, it's warning. The kind of laugh that says, "You have no idea how badly you've screwed up." "Respect?" Chuck echoes, his voice like gravel dragged across steel. "Is that what you call assaulting a teenage girl?" He steps forward, slow and deliberate. With every step, Grayson backs away, his bravado dissolving with each footfall. Gone is the badge-fueled confidence. Now all that remains is a man standing in the eye of a coming storm. Grayson's hand twitches toward his baton. "Back off, big guy," he warns, trying to regain control. "I'm the law here." Chuck Norris just laughs again, this time lower, darker. "No," he says, fists clenched at his sides. "You're the reason people don't trust the law," and with that, the ground itself seems to shift. Because this isn't just about Jessica anymore, this is personal. And Chuck Norris doesn't do warnings twice. Their feet scraped gravel, the tension thick as tar. Chuck Norris didn't flinch, not once. He stared Grayson down like a lion sizing up a cornered hyena. "If you were a real cop," Chuck growled, his voice a blade honed on decades of battle, "you'd be upholding the law, not hiding behind it." The words landed like the final nail in Grayson's coffin, slicing through his authority like a guillotine. Whatever hope he had of walking away from this unscathed evaporated under Chuck's glare. And not tonight. Chuck said, final and cold as Judgment Day. Panic leaked from Grayson's eyes. His breath quickened. Backing away like a trapped animal, he swung his bat in a wild, desperate arc, hoping to land a lucky strike. But Chuck's hand moved before the thought even finished forming. A swift snap, crack, and the baton shattered in two, splinters clattering to the ground like symbols of Grayson's collapsing control. You just made the worst mistake of your life, Chuck muttered, his voice low and seismic, like thunder before a quake. Grayson's eyes darted like a hunted man. The street, the cruiser, the shadows, anywhere but at Chuck. He whispered, please don't do this. It was already too late. In a blur, Chuck struck, flawless and furious. The years of training, discipline, and rage fused into one unstoppable machine. Grayson was disarmed before he could blink, spun around like a rag doll. Chuck locked him into a rear naked choke, arms like steel girders coiling around his throat. Leaning in, Chuck's voice was a whisper, a blade at the ear. We're done. Grayson flailed, kicking, grasping, choking on his own panic. Please don't hurt me. He gasped, lunging toward the safety of his cruiser. But Chuck was faster, always had been. Grayson crashed into a wall of muscle, unmoving, unyielding. Chuck grabbed him, glared down, and said it slow enough to etch into bone. You're not going anywhere. Then, slam, he shoved Grayson to his knees, pressing him down like the weight of justice itself. The officer's face hit the pavement, eyes wide with disbelief, fear, and a dawning realization that this was the end. Chuck pulled out his phone. His fingers didn't tremble. One number, one call. His voice, cold, clipped, lethal. Get here. Now. Moments later, red and blue lights burst through the night like a second sun. Sirens wailed through the sleepy suburb as patrol cruisers flooded the scene. The eerie quiet of the street gave way to the pounding of boots. Radios crackling, orders shouted. Captain Morales stepped out, face carved in steel. His eyes swept the chaos, then locked on Chuck Norris and the officer on the ground like prey on a slab. Someone tell me what the hell is going on, he snapped, striding forward. Chuck didn't blink. That officer assaulted my granddaughter, he said. The words came measured and true, like gospel. He stopped her for no reason, shoved her to the ground. She was just walking home. Murky silence fell. And then voices, neighbors stepping from the shadows, witnesses nodding, their eyes wide, faces furious. The truth, loud and undeniable, rippled through the crowd. Morales turned to Grayson, his jaw flexing. Hand over your badge and your gun. The silence shattered. You're finished, Morales barked, every word a nail in Grayson's coffin. You don't deserve that uniform. You're a disgrace to the badge. Grayson, trembling, fumbled at his belt, unclipping the badge, then the holster. He held them out with hands that barely worked. I didn't mean it. I thought she... Enough! Morales roared. If it weren't for Chuck Norris, God knows what you might have done. Back inside, far from the flashing lights and shouting voices, Jessica sat on the couch, her body wrapped in a blanket, her soul still untangling from what had just happened. Chuck knelt beside her. His hands, rough, weathered, scarred, moved with the gentleness of falling snow as he cleaned the blood from her scraped knee. A cotton swab dabbed tenderly, each touch infused with all the love in the world. Angel, he whispered, just a little longer and you'll be good as new. Jessica looked at him, eyes shining. Thanks, Grandpa, she whispered. I didn't know what would have happened if you hadn't come. Chuck paused, his eyes wet now too, just barely. He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. I'll always be there for you, he said. Ooh, my girl. I love you. And then silence. Beautiful, healing silence. The kind that only comes when fear is past and love remains. The camera pulled back, slow and reverent, catching their embrace in the soft golden glow of home. One silhouette, two souls, an unbreakable bond. And as the night closed in around them, a voiceover, deep, resonant, unforgettable, rose like a hymn. In a world where injustice creeps in through cracks and shadows, sometimes it takes a hero to make things right, and sometimes it just takes a grandfather. Chuck Norris, tonight, was both.